This lineup you see on the screen is the top projected one tonight for Jaguars Jets on Thursday Night Football. It's a good lineup to use in cash games, but the best way to use it is to figure out how everyone else will build their lineups on DraftKings tonight. In this video, I'll give you key advanced stats and fantasy data for Jags Jets and break down the top projected lineups to give us some unique ideas on how to build our own lineups tonight. And by the end, you'll know 3 pro tips to maybe get different enough to win $500,000 on DraftKings tonight. As always, let's start with the odds for the game as our basis. The Jets are a 2-point favorite in a game with a 37-point over-under. That means the Jaguars get a 17.5-point implied total from Vegas, and the Jets, they have a 19.5-point implied total. It's also worth pointing out this line has moved towards the Jets from being a pick'em, and the over-under, that's been bet down 2.5 points since opening. The top 3 projected players are, drumroll please, number 1 is Zach Wilson with a 15.3 DK point projection according to Stokastic.com. Number 2 is Trevor Lawrence with a 15.1 DK point projection and the highest salary on the slate at $11,400. And number 3 is Travis Etienne with a 14.9 DK point projection. Etienne also projects to be the top owned player at 57% ownership overall and almost 15% of the field expected to play him at captain. Well, Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence project for around 50% ownership overall, and they, along with everyone else tonight, project for under 10% ownership at captain. Zonovan Knight will also be popular if he's able to play through an ankle injury due to his low price point. He projects for the second highest captain ownership behind Etienne at 11%. There are no outlier cheap plays who are going to be highly owned as there usually are in Showdown. Jacksonville tight end Chris Manhertz projects as the best value overall, but he has a low 1 DK point projection. A Jets tight end Tyler Conklin has the best projection of the cheapest guys at 6.6 DK points, but he's at $3,200 salary, which means that people will find the money to play the kickers instead. Let's go back to our top projected lineups on Fantasy Cruncher to see how this affects everything being built. And there's a lot of overlap in the players who show up in the top 25 projected lineups. Travis Etienne shows up in 76% of the lineups at utility and 24% of them as captain. Bam Knight shows up the most at captain in 44% of our top 25 lineups, but he's also in 56% of lineups at utility. And Zach Wilson ends up in 68% of the top 25 lineups at utility and 32% of them at captain. What this means is if you fade all these guys, you're away from the entire field, basically. It's not necessarily the strategic move to take, but it is the way to think about it. You could also set a group for max 2 out of 3 or max 1 out of 3 to try to leverage if those guys fail. It's also worth pointing out that 80% of the top projected lineups have one of Greg Zuerlein or Riley Patterson, and 52% of them have one of the defenses. With the low totals, people will likely jam in a lot of these guys, so make sure to play a maximum of 2 kickers or DSTs. Lineups with more can win, but it's not wise to go that way if a lot of the field will due to the volatility and negative correlation. The last thing to note is that 16 out of 25 lineups have at least 4 Jets, and 24 out of 25 lineups have 3 or more Jets. The Jets are a shutdown D, but if the Jags succeed, much like they did against the good Dallas D, a 4-2 build favoring the Jags or a Jags onslaught could win it all. I'm going to show you guys some lineups that make sense with all of that in mind. First, let's hit on some noteworthy stats for Jaguars Jets. I mentioned this one in yesterday's Stats to Win Week 16 video, which you should check out in the pinned comments below. But it feels like Trevor Lawrence is walking into a buzzsaw based upon how he plays. Lawrence's 4.6 throws to 20-plus yards per game is one of the highest marks in the league. But the Jets destroy deep ball throwers this year. They give up a league best negative 0.51 EPA per deep throw, along with a 23% completion rate and 26% pass deflection rate. That could lead to turnovers if Lawrence forces the ball downfield to Zay Jones. The Jets were also top 10 in DVOA at defending wide receiver 1s, wide receiver 2s, and tight ends. And they're third in the NFL, allowing 27.9 yards per drive. Point being, Trevor Lawrence has been stellar lately, but this is a very tough matchup for him to keep it going. The Jets will have it much better offensively, other than having Zach Wilson at QB, of course. The .112 EPA Jacksonville gives up on dropbacks, along with a 48.6% success rate. That matches up with a bottom of the league 25% DVOA boost to opposing passers. And the Jags are 30th in the league in yards allowed per drive with 36.6. This all means this is a good spot for Zach Wilson, even if he doesn't take advantage, as he didn't in Week 15 versus Detroit. If Zach can get him the ball, it's a nice spot for Garrett Wilson as well. Jags are 28th versus wide receiver 1s with an 18% DVOA boost to the position. He makes for an interesting lower-owned captain play with slate-breaking upside. So let's combine all this information together and find some low-owned lineups that could win it all. Now, you can play these lineups if you want, but the best way to use them is as a thought starter to build build lineups with the players that you love. And I love this first one with Garrett Wilson at captain. We have Garrett Wilson at captain, Zach Wilson, Zay Jones is the lone Jaguar, Bam Knight, Corey Davis, and Greg Zuerlein. We've gotten away from a highly owned ETN and Trevor Lawrence in an onslaught build. A wide receiver is typically the most optimal bring back from the opposing side. And for me personally, if Zay Jones goes off in best ball, I am dead. So it's a great way to get some leverage there. As you guys may know by now from these videos, I love onslaughts when they're not highly owned. So here's one from the Jags side. Bam Knight at captain, Trevor Lawrence, Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne, Riley Patterson, and Jags D. This lineup basically says that Zach Wilson crapped the bed and the running game was the only thing to keep the Jets afloat. We also get away from Zay Jones, who will be more popular after going off for 3 touchdowns in week 15. Jags onslaught builds will be very low owned despite the fact they've shown tremendous upside lately. And the Jets, we know what they can do to blow a game. But let's ignore that and look at a Zach Wilson captain lineup. Zach Wilson at captain, Trevor Lawrence, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, and Riley Patterson. You can maybe knock off a little salary by swapping Corey Davis to a Tyler Conklin or CJ Uzoma. But how many people do you think will go, yeah, this game with 19.5 implied points is where Zach Wilson has the game of his life? It's a good matchup, and it's entirely possible that Zach Wilson plays well. Is it the most likely outcome with how bad he's been this year? Probably not. But you win the most money by profiting when you nail an angle that nobody else is on. Now, I'm about to share with you my 3 pro tips to get different on tonight's Jags Jets DraftKings slate. First, please hit that like button and subscribe to Splash Play. We've got new videos daily, and each one is designed to make you smarter about how to actually win at fantasy football. And leave a comment down below too. I always reply. Now on to my favorite part of the video that'll give you some levers on how to get different from the field. Your 3 pro tips to build unique lineups tonight. Number 1, split up Zach, Etienne, and Bam. Whenever you see a group of guys who pop up in every lineup, one way to immediately get different is to set a rule so they don't appear together. If you do play them together, you'll need to get very unique in other parts of your lineup. So be an extremist and set max 1 or 2, or take a half measure and play lineups with a much lower salary. A second pro tip is don't expect a field goal fest. Both teams kick and allow field goals at league average rates. The kickers will project very well today due to the lack of cheap plays with real upside. Kicker is the most volatile position in football. The low game total will make them and the defense very obvious and potentially dangerously over-owned plays. My third pro tip is play some unique outcomes. People know the Jets are a shutdown D, and I personally think this is more likely to be a floor game for the Jags than a ceiling one. But everyone is going to think that tonight. Save for the idea of Zach Wilson being trash and not good enough to make an offense explode. By playing these outcomes instead of a slog game, you'll be getting different from a lot of the field. And then you're really embracing the volatility that comes in a single NFL game that'll help you win big. There you have it, guys. That's everything I see for tonight's Thursday night football Jaguars Jets DraftKings Showdown slate. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Splash Play before you go. Follow me at Chris Spags and follow the show at Splash Play Pod. And if I don't take down that $500,000 to first place tonight, I hope you do. So good luck. So in that stats to win week 16 video that's down, pinned in the comments below, I was really begging Jalen Hurts to play yesterday. Find out today he's ruled out. It's going to be Gardner Minshew. And I think this is the most catastrophic thing to happen to best ball. 30% of people in best ball mania have Jalen Hurts advancing. Now he's not going. Now it's Gardner Minshew time. So enjoy your stupid headbands and mustaches, people. You're not getting Jalen Hurts now.